The three-day Chinese operation was launched soon after a highly symbolic meeting between Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen and U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in Los Angeles. China claims Taiwan as its breakaway province and warned of retaliation if those talks take place. It's the first such meeting on American soil since the U.S. ended its official relationship with Taiwan in 1979.
And of course, President Tsai is a great champion of that bond. Taiwan is a successful democracy, a thriving economy, and a global leader in health and science. The friendship between the people of Taiwan and America is a matter of profound importance to the free world, and it is critical to maintain economic freedom, peace, and regional stability.
Their presence and unwavering support reassure the people of Taiwan that we are not isolated and we are not alone.
Well, for more on this, let's cross live to Washington and speak with the Rise U.S. correspondent Eric Ham. Good to see you, Eric. So after that high-profile visit to the U.S. by the Taiwanese president, China moves its warships closer to Taiwan. What kind of reaction is that eliciting in America where you are?
Well, it's certainly a cause for alarm in terms of what we're seeing here in Washington right now. And we know that tensions are already at an all-time high between the United States and China. And now, of course, this latest move by the Taiwanese president to meet with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy only increases, not decreases, the tensions between the two countries. The United States is watching the situation and is certainly monitoring the situation as well. But what we continue to hear, Charles, particularly from many inside Taiwan, is that there's no reason or cause for alarm. But also we know that China's bellicosity when it comes to Taiwan is only increasing and continues to grow, not wane. And we know that even before this trip was planned, we know that Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker, certainly wanted to follow in the previous Speaker, Nancy Pelosi's footsteps by actually traveling to Taiwan. Clearly, the Taiwanese thought that this would be a much better move that would be seen as less provocative. Clearly, based on what we're seeing, it's not so much. But these are going to be the very volatile, very fragile steps that we're going to continue to see played out between the United States and China over Taiwan as the United States continues to recognize Taiwan while also making clear that it still adheres to the one China policy.
And Eric, that's a very interesting point you raised there about Kevin McCarthy actually wanting to travel to Taiwan, much like his predecessor Nancy Pelosi, but Taiwan are judging it better for the meeting to take place in California. So it's a very fine balance that Taiwan is trying to strike, isn't it, between China and the U.S.?
It is. And remember, many of Taiwan's diplomatic relationships with other countries have also began to diminish as China has become increasingly more vocal about how it views and sees Taiwan. We know that number has already dwindled down to 13, with, of course, the United States being certainly the most impactful and the most powerful. Now, Kevin McCarthy continues to speak in very glowing terms about the relationship between the United States and Taiwan. And also, it must be recognized that in the United States, there has been bipartisan discord regarding China, with Republicans and Democrats seeing China more as a malevolent actor. And of course, the attention is only increasing, not diminishing. And this will certainly continue to play out, as we've already seen from the creation of a U.S.-China congressional committee staffed by both Republicans and Democrats, and also to the fact that the latest Chinese spy balloon that flew over the United States certainly is seen as a growing level of concern for millions of Americans, which is perhaps one of the reasons why the issue of social media giant TikTok has become such a political football right now, is because many see it as in the hands of China. And so what we're seeing here is numerous proxy battles continuing to play out between the United States and China, and of course, Taiwan is perhaps the biggest.
And of course, just to further buttress the point you're making there, Eric, for those in our audience who may not know, China puts a great deal of effort into discouraging other countries from fostering relations with Taiwan because, of course, it believes that Taiwan is part of its territory. But let's move on to another story, Eric. Robert Kennedy's son filing election papers to run for president as a Democrat against Joe Biden in 2024. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, there were many who were wondering if, in fact, President Joe Biden would get a potential challenger for the Democratic nomination. And we saw earlier when Marianne Williamson, who ran for president back in 2020, actually announced her candidacy, seen somewhat as a left-wing progressive that doesn't really have much of a chance, and quite frankly isn't seen as a threat to to President Joe Biden as a Democratic nominee. Now a much higher profile individual throws their hat into the ring, Robert Kennedy Jr., the son of the former slain Robert Kennedy, who of course served as Attorney General and was a presidential candidate at one time, and also the nephew of also deceased slain former President John F. Kennedy. Robert Kennedy is seen as a massive anti-vaxxer. He raised millions of dollars pushing against the COVID vaccine in the United States. In fact, he has been on the wrong side of the anti-vaccine argument, particularly when it comes to social media companies. We know Meta, the parent company of Facebook, actually shut down his nonprofit organization as it was fostering misinformation regarding vaccinations across the country. And while he will be running as a Democrat, it's very difficult to see where his lane is, and outside of his famous name, who actually will get behind his candidacy. So right now we're seeing that there are several candidates that have entered the race for the Democratic nomination. Will it somehow dent Joe Biden's march to the candidacy, to his reelection efforts? It's highly unlikely at this point. And right now, it will mostly be noise, as many do not believe that either of these candidates will garner much consideration in their efforts.
Eric, thanks very much indeed. Eric Ham, Arise US correspondent, talking to me there from Washington.